And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my weekly Q&A. My name is Danny Segura, and yes, today is the first day of December. It is extremely shady outside. It's like 1 p.m. and it's dark already, basically, and it's kind of hailing. So pretty bad weather here in New York City. But yeah, it's good time to stay in. So yeah, I'll be doing that today. So yeah, welcome to my live Q&A. This is the third one I've made officially, right? Because I've made a few others. But as far as this goes, the weekly live Q&A, this is the third installment. So thank you for joining me. And yeah, let's talk some MMA and whatever else is on your mind. So if you're new, if you don't know how this works, I've asked people to submit questions via Twitter just so I can queue them up. And then I go to the live chat, which should be on your screen. And then I'll tackle those questions as well. So if you didn't get to send out a tweet, you can just throw stuff on the live chat and I'll most likely get to it first. But I will tackle the ones on Twitter first because I like to have questions queued up so we can just get right into it and not spend a lot of time just waiting for questions to pop up. Everybody can hear me fine, right? Yep. And yes, I believe so. Say something in the live chat. That would help me out just to double check everything is working properly. Awesome. Thank you, Gary Freeman. All right, so let's get right into it. We got a good amount of Twitter questions. So let's tackle those. All right. Jesus asks on Twitter, I'm an Atleti fan too. Do you think Simeone will finally leave? A lot of big clubs are open and more will be. I don't see how we keep him going into next season. Thoughts on that and the Colchonero season so far? Ooh, right into soccer. Well, today at 3 p.m., Atletico's playing Barcelona. That is their first game of the season. If you don't know, Griezmann, the superstar of Atletico, left to Barcelona, so it's going to be a very heated game. It should be a very heated game, and I'm interested to see how that plays out because obviously they're probably going to play Griezmann. So, yeah, as far as the season has been a little bit disappointing, but I did came into the season with the mentality of that it wasn't going to be a great season. I mean, this is a rebuilding season. Literally, we had staples like Godin, Juan Fran, Felipe Luis. Who else left? Fernando Torres. I mean, although he was very old, but Griezmann, right? So many people left. A lot of key players left. So we had to bring in a lot of guys that this is their first season with a team. So um, yeah, the first season, the first of anything, it's never going to be great. It takes time to develop chemistry and really develop the team. So I kind of went into that perspective of like, look, this is probably not going to be Atleti's best season, um, but again, it's a rebuilding season. So I just hope that they have a Champions League spot next year. Right now, I believe they're fourth, and that's looking tough. As long as they place in the top three, I think I'll be satisfied with the season. We're just getting we got a brand new team. And as far as Simeone leaving, I think he's got a contract till 2022, if I'm not mistaken. He's the heart of the team. I mean, he is Colchonero, all the way through. So I don't see him leaving. I really don't. I've seen the reports, but these reports have been around for a long time as well. So who knows? Maybe he'll take the money and go to a bigger club, but I don't see him leaving. I think he's a Colchonero at heart, and he's got a good team, a good group of guys, young guys as well. The old generation left, so he's got a lot to work with now. And yeah, so far, yeah, so I'm not disappointed, but it's not a great season. But yeah, it is what it is, as some say in MMA, right? All right, Jesus asks again, who do you fee? I'm guessing who do you see is next for Masvidal? I don't see Nick coming back anytime soon. He's not on the USADA pool. He seems to not want Usman/Colby winner. Will he still? Will he sit till summer/international fight week? Yeah, and also he wanted some time off. I mean, he had a busy 2019 when he fought 3 times. All those fights were pretty big. I believe his hand was pretty messed up leaving UFC 244, and I believe also he probably made a good buck from that pay-per-view. So I believe it was the first time he made pay-per-view points. So if you factor all that in, I mean, it allows him to sit out, right? He doesn't need the money. He needs to heal up, right? And he also wants to come back for the right opportunity. That's at least that's what I'm guessing. So there's a bunch of big fights playing out. Obviously, we got in December in 2 weeks about. We got Usman versus Covington. I actually do believe he'd want the winner, maybe depending on what happens, right? We got to see how the fight plays out, but I don't think he. Again, I'm not I'm not his manager. I don't know what he wants, but from what he said before in the past, saying that he wants all the belts, that rivalry with Colby, all those factors, I do believe that could be an enticing fight, especially if Colby wins and if the money's there. Again, he said it. He said a bunch of times, like, I fight whoever gives me the most zeros on my paycheck. So if that's the fight that gets him the most money, then that's the fight. Also, we got McGregor versus Cerrone happening as well. That's happening early 2020. So we'll have to see how that plays out again. I'm sure he's going to keep a close eye on that. That could potentially be a big fight for him if Conor McGregor wins, of course. Again, there's a lot of things up in the air. We don't know what Nick Diaz is going to do, in the future. So I think right now he's just going to sit out and see how everything around him plays out and then probably make a decision based on that. That's my hunch. But again, I don't know. That's just me speculating. All right. Jed Mishu, my good friend Jed Mishu asks, who is the most handsome guy you've ever worked with? And why is it me? Yeah, Jed is definitely up there. Make sure to give him a follow. That's he's got one of the best. He's got a really interesting Twitter account. He's a must follow, I think. He's got very unique opinions. To be honest, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff he says, but he's a very smart dude and always backs his stuff up, his arguments with facts. It's not like he's just saying, crazy shit out there. And yeah, it's good to get different kinds of opinions, different looks, different outlooks, different perspectives on things. And he's definitely one that's out there. And I appreciate people like that with different outlooks. But yeah, definitely give him a follow. Also, he's got a cool Avi. I believe that's his dog wearing sunglasses. Yeah. So shout out to my good friend Jed. Swaggy Felix asks, will Gina Carano fight again? No, I don't think so. She would have fought already. Plus, you saw that interview she did with Ariel Helwani on ESPN. She was, it looks like her and the UFC are cool, or Dana, but like her experience working with them wasn't the greatest. At least, that was kind of like the message there. So yeah, I don't see her fighting. Plus, she's like killing it, right? She's on The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. That's, hot topic right now, Baby Yoda and all that. So yeah, she's killing it. And, she is older. How old is she? Let me pull her wiki up. Because when she was talking about coming back to MMA, she was talking about fighting Ronda. So that was a while ago. Ronda hasn't fought in a bit. She's 37, dude. No, just enjoy your Hollywood career. You did plenty in MMA. Yeah, I don't see her coming back. She does have a good relationship with Scott Coker and Bellator, obviously working with Scott Coker in the Strikeforce days. So you never know. But I don't even know if I think Ariel probably asked her, like, are you retired? I don't think she gave him a straightforward answer, but I would have to, I guess, look back at the interview. But yeah, no, I don't see her fighting, to answer your question. Let me mute my phone. All right, dude, it's hailing, man. It sucks. Anyways. All right, Terrence Levirette, sorry if I killed your name, asks on Twitter, why do you think Ali and Justin were using MMA math to try the Conor fight, saying you shouldn't fight Cowboy because I beat him? No one is saying Conor flatlined the two people who beat Justin. Everyone is under the impression Conor's scared. Thoughts? Well, it's simple. Why does Ali and Justin want to fight or use MMA math to try to get a fight with Conor McGregor? Just like anyone else. Conor McGregor is big bucks if you fight him. You're going to get huge brand exposure. You're going to make a big payday. You're pretty much guaranteed a main event. No one's going to headline over Conor. And yeah, all around, it's like Conor says, red penny night, right? Like, it's really, there's a lot of benefits you get from fighting Conor McGregor. Even if you just lose, like you still make a big buck, right? So for, again, I'm not making a prediction, but I think that'd be it's a tough matchup for anyone. Conor's a tough matchup for anyone, not named Khabib, but I would favor Justin in a fight with Conor McGregor, or at least right now. Maybe he changes my mind when he fights Cowboy and he looks a certain way, and I go, whoa. But yeah, why are they trying to get a fight just because anyone else? Because that's a big fight. It's a huge fight, and you beat Conor, you'll probably be next in line for the title shot too. You're coming off a big payday. So it just makes sense for anyone really. And yeah, and also Gaethje's in a. Let's pull up his Wikipedia record. Gaethje's in an interesting spot because he's been killing it lately. So Gaethje's been looking real good, and also he's picked up solid wins. So there isn't, especially with Ferguson getting the next shot at Khabib, there isn't like a whole lot of room for him to go elsewhere. So Conor was a good option for him. I mean, yeah, he's on a 3-fight win streak, beating James Vick, Edson Barbosa, Donald Cerrone. Yeah, I mean, maybe you run it back with Dustin Poirier. I think Dustin Poirier posted something about that. They last fought in April 2018. That was a hell of a fight. Both fighters have clearly elevated their skills, elevated their level since. I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch, but again, we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's why. I mean, that's why anybody wants to fight Conor. Dan on Twitter asked, Danny, what BJJ belt are you? Do you still train? I'm a blue belt. I got my blue belt, I believe, in 2013, and I never tested since. I don't know if I'm purple belt level. Maybe at some point I came close, like a really shitty purple belt. But I haven't trained. My training slowed down since I moved to New York about like 3 years ago, just because yeah, it's hard to train in the city, man. It really is. It's hard to be consistent, especially with work as well, and training in the city is just rough. Like in Florida, I had an easier time training. Here is like my gym was really far, and it was just like getting to the gym, and it was just, I mean, you can always obviously make it happen, but it's just that much more difficult. And also I had a pretty big injury. I had a hernia, so I had to get a surgery for it. And then after that I started boxing. I do plan on getting back to jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu hasn't been too kind to my body. Like I have a torn meniscus as well. So it's one of those things where I love it, but at the same time you start getting older and it's like, all right, it's one, an expensive hobby, and two, like, it could cause some health issues, and I'm not trying to be a pro fighter or amateur fighter or anything like that. So, I'll get back into it, but I probably won't be competing as I did once. And I don't think I'd be, I just do it for fun, just light rolling, basically flow rolling with the occasional tough sparring session. But yeah, I haven't trained. Last time I trained was probably like early January or something like that, like literally a year ago. So yeah, all right. I believe we have a couple more Twitter questions, and then I'll address the live chat. That sound good? Let's see. All right. Midwestward asks, Danny, I support you, your writing, and your videos. Is there a city or region in MMA that we aren't talking about enough? I've read speculation France may host its first MMA event in 2020. What places deserve more of our attention in the year ahead? Well, France is a big one since it's now legal, and you got Francis Ngannou, right? A few. Is there any other French fighters right now on the roster? Yeah, the dude who's fighting. What's his face? I forgot his name. The dude that's fighting Marlon Moreno, right? He's French. There's a few like French guys, I think. I mean, that's one that's easy, especially like you can just put any European star really, and Europe is so small. I think if the event is good, people would be down to travel for it. Also, and a good fight's a good fight. So if you put on two guys that are not even, or ladies that are not French, as long as that's a high profile fight, people will show up. France is one. I'd like to see an event there at some point in the future. I don't know exactly where in Africa. I mean, Dana White has said that they have a TV deal in Africa that's like very broad. Like obviously Africa is huge. Like what countries? Like saying I have, there's a TV deal in South America. Like where? There's a lot of countries, a lot of regions. But with the rise of the Nigerian fighters, I'd love to see an event, down there if it's possible. I mean, I know for what was it, 2014 World Cup, and it was in South Africa. So I know they have arenas and stadium there that can, hold a good amount of people. So, if they bring Israel Adesanya or Francis Ngannou, Usman. There's so many. Sadiq Youssef. I mean, the rise of Nigerian fighters and just African fighters in the last like year and a half or so has been, um, has been something. Is definitely notable. So maybe that's an avenue in the future. I'd like to see that. Also, I think South America still, although the MMA is not huge there, but I'd like to see it get more developed. Also, Brazil. I feel like Brazil has been kind of forgotten. Like, don't get me wrong, there's been events in Brazil, but the type of events I think they've for the most part have been smaller. A lot of that is due because a lot of the older Brazilian stars kind of retired and have left the sport, and there hasn't really been a new crop. There's been some guys, Paulo Costa being one of them, and a few others, but not of the same magnitude. Like at one point, like literally the biggest stars in the sport were Brazilian. So that has to do with it, but I'd like to see more of an emphasis there as well. I mean, it's huge hotbed for MMA and talent just in general. I'd like to see a big event in Russia as well. I mean, we've had obviously UFC Moscow and smaller events, but I think a nice pay-per-view, a big pay-per-view with Khabib, that would be something to watch. Yeah, I mean, there's so many areas. There's a lot of places that the UFC could go and just MMA in general. UFC in Hawaii as well. We haven't seen that. Although Bellator's done a fantastic job and they're returning as well. I'd like to see also a UFC event there. Hawaii has got tons of talent, especially in the UFC. All right. Hopefully that answers your question. Seth Plow asks, why is Khabib/Tony happening in Brooklyn? Also, is it safe to assume this is the biggest lightweight fight in UFC history, given both their winning streaks? Yep. I think this might even be, this is by far the most high profile matchup in lightweight history. Like, these are by far the two most skilled guys in lightweight history, period. I mean, also just keep in mind their win streaks, their styles. This is literally one of the most perfect fights. The personalities as well. Both guys are very unique in their own right. But yeah, this is a huge fight. I would say this is the biggest lightweight fight in UFC history. You can make an argument for like McGregor and Eddie Alvarez and stuff, and maybe that'll be bigger as far as like promotion and media and just attention in general. But if you're looking to see who is the best lightweight on the planet, you look at that matchup. Generationally, those two guys I think are the two best ever. And we're finally getting it, right? Knock on wood. I mean, I really hope it goes down. Hopefully both guys are able to make weight stay healthy throughout the entire camps, because it would be a shame if this fight doesn't go down. It'd be the biggest, not regret, but like the biggest fight that we never saw in history if that bout never comes to fruition. But yes, that is a huge fight. I'm super excited for it. Why in Brooklyn? I mean, usually the big fights happen, right? Vegas International Fight Week, and then they have in November MSG, and then Brooklyn around April, right? Those have been kind of like the big events in the UFC in the last couple of years. So yeah, it's just a big event. Khabib needs to fight. They need to fill pay-per-views with title fights. And also, I'm not complaining because it's here in my borough. So I'll be going to that fight for sure, and I'm excited for it. So thank God it's happening in Brooklyn, because I want to watch that live. That's going to be a fantastic fight. Mitchell Terrell asks on Twitter, if Khabib pulls out for whatever reason, does Tony get an interim option? Maybe. I mean, it all depends, right? We got to look at the circumstances. Like, how long will Khabib be out, right? What's the reason he pulled out? I'm not saying he pulled out, by the way, if anyone's tuning in right now. So there's a lot that goes into it, because maybe it's something minor and they can rebook it a month later. So there's no need for an interim title. But I think if something really bad were to happen, where Khabib is not able to defend his belt for a while, at that point you do the interim thing again and have Tony actually defend it. Not like, I don't even know. I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, he would have to fight someone for it again, and I would love for there to be like, because that's the thing. He's gotten skipped over before having been the interim champion, so I don't even know if that's a thing he'd be down to do. But at the same time, if that were to happen, then where do you go? You just keep sitting out. Like, you haven't fought in a good bit. So, yeah, I mean, let's not even discuss that, because I don't want to bring some reality. I don't want to summon that type of thing. But yeah, hopefully it happens in Brooklyn, and that's that. That's all I'll say about that. All right. Toba the Egg asks, oh, nice Twitter, Abby. An egg running. I like it. What would be your pick for the top 3 fights on UFC Africa? If Usman were to defend his, well, Israel Adesanya against whoever the rightful contender is at the time. Also, I feel like UFC Africa is probably going to happen way down the line. So, or an event in Africa. So who knows who will be holding the belt? But yeah, you got to involve the champions. Kamaru Usman. You got to have Francis Ngannou on that card, and you got to have Francis Ngannou on that card because he's actually from there, right? I believe. I mean, so is Kamaru as well, but I think he moved at a way younger age, right, from Nigeria, uh, and then Francis Ngannou moved already when he was a bit older. I think he might have been like in his early 20s, if I'm not mistaken. And Israel Adesanya is from Nigeria, but he grew up in New Zealand. So I think you have to have, of course, Francis Ngannou there and any of the champions. Hopefully all three. That'd be really nice to watch, or all two, both of them, and then Ngannou. But yeah, I mean, I think one works as well. Like one champion, one title fight on the card works as well. But yeah, again and against who again? That's down the line. So who knows what the landscape will look then. But yeah. All right. I believe that does it for the Twitter questions. Let me double check here and then I'll go to the chat. So that was pretty quick. I did it in 20 minutes. Not bad. I believe last time I took a bit and I think it was even less questions. I kind of went through them, but I kind of wanted to address the chat as well. But yeah, those were all the Twitter questions. So appreciate everyone that threw questions in the Twitter machine. I always like to get questions queued up so we can get right into it and discuss MMA and be able to talk about it at length, right? Not just wait for questions to come in. We just get right into it. So yeah, thank you for submitting questions on Twitter. All right, now I'm gonna pop the chat over here, which has been quite busy. And I'm going to answer those questions. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, now is a good time to do so. There should be a subscribe button somewhere on your screen. Give this video a thumbs up. Turn on notifications for future live streams. And thank you very much. All right. Got the chat here. Is this even in order? Hold on a second. Okay, yeah. Greetings from Cairo, Egypt. What is the path of victory for Cowboy against Conor? And which Conor do you think will show up on fight night? Keep up the good work. Thank you, Karimbo Slice. I like that. Nice. Karimbo Slice. Rest in peace, Kimbo Slice. True OG from Miami, OG from the fight game. But yeah, thank you for tuning in from all the way in Cairo, Egypt. Appreciate that. And to answer your question, what is the path to victory for Cowboy against Conor? That's a tough one. First of all, I'm going to address the second part of your question first because I think that's the actual order. And then I'll address the first part, which is how will Cowboy do against Conor? So the second part was, which Conor do you think will show up on fight night? That is an extremely good question. That's actually something that I'm very, very curious. I don't know. And to be honest, I don't have an answer. But to be honest, I don't have an answer for that. It's almost impossible to tell, and we will only find out until fight night rolls out. But I think I've seen a lot of hate on Twitter towards Conor, and obviously, there's stuff in his personal life with the sexual assault cases and all that make him an easy target to be hated on. Obviously, that stuff's not good, and his incident at the pub and other stuff as well. But if we're just strictly talking about MMA, I think that's kind of blinded some people into how good he really is. I mean, at one point when he fought Eddie Alvarez and he put him away, the way he did it, that was magical. At that point in time, I thought Conor McGregor was one of at the time a pound for pound. Maybe not the best. I think at that time Demetrius Johnson was also just on a ridiculous win streak and killing it. John Jones as well. So I probably would have held, I probably no, I would have those two guys over Conor at that time. But still, I thought he was top five. I thought he was one of the greatest. I mean, that moment was just magical. He called it, the precision of the shots. Eddie Alvarez was a champion. I mean, it was just ridiculous. That guy is very, very skilled. At some point, he was very, very skilled. Is he still very, very skilled? My hunch is that he is. He's probably still a top 10. Is he still a top five, a top three? We'll find out. And that's why I really wanted to see this Cowboy Cerrone matchup, because I feel like with the Justin Gaethje, the way Justin Gaethje is looking, like if you lose to Justin Gaethje, that does not say a whole lot about you. I mean, Justin Gaethje is what, top three? I mean, he's right behind Tony Ferguson, obviously number one being the champion, Khabib Nurmagomedov. So, yeah, if you lose to him, a lot of people would lose to him. So, it wouldn't say much about him. Now against Cerrone's still very skilled. He's still a ranked guy. He's still someone that I consider in the top 10. Now, if you lose to him, I feel like that's more telling of where you're at, right? And again, I'm not trying to throw any shade to Cerrone. Cerrone's great. He's a top 10 fighter in the world at lightweight. That's extremely difficult to do, extremely difficult to get there. And he's not only there, but he's been there for years, which is super impressive. Also, those two have beef. Have we forgot about like the whole back and forth they had? I believe when Conor was going to fight Chad Mendes, that whole press conference was fun, and they've gone back and forth in the media for a bit. And this matchup has also been teased for a while. So there is a story with the Gaethje. There's not much storyline with this one. There's a story. Conor's coming off a long layoff. Cerrone's off losses, so it just makes sense. I like that matchup. And what version will we see? I don't know. We will find out. But if the version that we saw against Eddie Alvarez is the one that's going to show up come fight night, that's going to be a good night for Conor, I suspect. But again, we don't know what kind of version he's gonna come fight night. And as far as the path to victory for Cowboy, I would like to say this, make a quick side note. Go to MMAJunkie.com, and Dan Tom broke down the matchup at length. I believe that thing's like 4 pages, and kind of like the keys to victory for each fighter. And he really went into detail. I got to read some of it. I haven't read all of it, to be honest. I got busy and I had some stuff to do, but the breakdown was pretty good. So I encourage you to check that out. He's pretty good at breaking down fights. But in my opinion, I think, Cowboy has to use his range. He's clearly the longer fighter, use a lot of kicks, stay busy. I think it's difficult with Conor, right? Ideally, you'd like to take him down. Can Cerrone take him down? Maybe. At 170, he was taking down Patrick Cote, and at 170, like not so long ago, he had started to add takedowns to his arsenal, and they were pretty damn good. He's obviously a much bigger man than Conor. If he can take Conor down, also, he's got amazing jiu-jitsu. Cowboy does. I think that would be a path to victory. However, I don't know if Cerrone would be down to go with that game plan. Also, some of the guys he was taking down at 170 were about his height, if not taller. So it's easy to get underneath. It's easier to change levels and get below him, below the opponent. With Conor being the smaller man, being like 5'9" or something like that, it will be a lot harder to get the underhooks, a lot harder to get the takedowns. So I think the path to victory there for him is just fighting long range, busy, pump the jab, keep Conor at bay. And yeah, I think, and even then it's still a dangerous fight because Conor's got a mean left hand, so he can crack you at any time. But if he can get to the fight to the ground, that would be huge for a Cowboy. He's the bigger man, the better grappler, and Conor has had issues with grapplers before in the past. So, that'd be it. But again, I don't know if Cerrone has the style to do that. Israel says, "Dale, bro." Shouts out to my Miami people. Let's see. Gary Freeman. It's supposed to be worse tomorrow. I'm on Eastern. What up, Danny? Yeah, it's not looking good. I'm telling you, I don't know how it looks on your end, but here is 1:30 p.m. and it's just dark. It looks like it's like 5. It's just it's really bad. It's just not fun. And I wanted to play soccer today, but I guess that's not happening. Some funny comments here in the chat. Is Jeremy Stevens versus Calvin Cater, the fight to make. Yeah, sure. I like that. Both coming off losses. Jeremy Stevens obviously losing to Jair Rodriguez like when a month ago or so in Boston. And then Calvin Cater losing to Zabit not shortly after. I believe it was like 2 weeks after. Yeah, it could be a good fight. I like it. Like it for both guys. That was Scott Kelly, by the way. Jesus Frias asks, no one giving Germaine Randamie a chance versus Amanda, but if Amanda can't take her down, JDR can pick her apart easy. Thoughts on that fight? Yeah, I addressed this on my last live chat of last week, live Q&A. Yeah, Germaine is really good. Germaine is one of the best strikers, not only in that division, but in women's MMA, period. She's got tons of power. She's very technical. She's fast. She's explosive. Um, and honestly, like, I don't know. This is, again, just my analysis. This is the way I look at things, or the way I look at it. There's not that many good strikers in women's MMA. For what reason, I don't know. But the very few that are, they're very good. And they usually come from a kickboxing background, from a Muay Thai background. But the women that start just straight in MMA, usually for whatever reason, don't develop that great of a striking. But for example, you look at like Valentina Shevchenko or Yana Jędrzejczyk or, Amanda Nunes. I don't believe she had a kickboxing background or a striking background. But Germaine, again, all have like a pretty good background in their striking sport, whether it's kickboxing or Muay Thai. But Germaine, yeah, she's super underrated. Super underrated. She's hit super hard. She's like, this is going to be a good fight. I think this might be one of the most competitive fights I think we'll see in recent memory with Amanda Nunes. But that's kind of easy to say because every fight that Amanda Nunes has been in the last like year and a half or so, couple years, has not been competitive at all. She's just completely wrecked her opponents. But I honestly think she will give her a tougher matchup than Holly, to be honest, than Cyborg. I mean, hindsight 2020. But again, Germaine sticks to her fundamentals, keeps her hands up, very technical. This will be a very good striking battle. I still favor Amanda, but for those people that think Germaine is going to get washed, I mean, it could happen, right? Because Amanda has stupid power. But I really don't think. I really don't think it will. I think it will be competitive, and at some point the tide will turn. But I think Germaine has a lot to offer here. I really do. Luke Bennett says, great interview with Michael Chiesa, Danny. What are your favorite fighters to watch in MMA? Well, thank you, Luke. Yeah, for those who haven't seen, I recently did an interview with Michael Chiesa. He'll be fighting Rafael Dos Anjos at UFC Raleigh in January. And yeah, it was a good interview. I love talking to Chiesa. He's always an honest dude and great guy to talk to. He has also a very good insight. He keeps a close eye to his division, also as well as lightweight. So like, if he could be a very good analyst. He really could. He pays a close attention to everything that's going on, and he has a good eye for detail. So yeah, it was fun talking to him. It's over on MMA Junkies YouTube channel and site as well, just MMAJunkie.com, so you can check that out. But yeah, it was fun, and I look forward to doing more of those in the future. Oh, and who's your favorite fighter to watch? I mean, there's so many. I love watching Tony Ferguson fight. He's always exciting. I love watching Masvidal fight. He's always exciting. I love watching the Diaz brothers fight. They're always exciting. I guess Nick hasn't fought in a while, but Nate. I'm trying to think of someone low key because I feel like those are pretty obvious answers. I feel like all of you guys would feel the same way about those fighters. But I'm trying to think somebody that's low key, under the radar. Paulo Costa, Yo Romero. I mean, I feel like all those are obvious answers. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. If someone comes to mind, I'll mention his or her name. But yeah, there's a lot of fighters that are fun to watch. For the most part, they're all obvious answers, but I'll think of a low key one and I'll throw it out there. Saul Rodriguez says, Should UFC make more non-title pay-per-view main events, with Masvidal Diaz being for a made-up belt and McGregor Cowboy in mind? Does does it, or should it matter if a title fight is the pay-per-view main event? Yeah, they have this rule. It's kind of weird, but at the same time, I get it. It's like they want to make pay-per-view special. Also, they want to make titles a special. So they kind of, try to keep the same tradition of having title fights only, or not only, but every pay-per-view has to have a title fight. We've seen that change recently, and it's been changing, and it kind of changed a little bit when Conor fought Diaz, and then I don't think we saw another main event without a title for a while. And um, I believe the following one, if I'm not mistaken, might have been this Diaz Masvidal. And now we're getting another one with Cowboy and Connor. So again, very few fighters are able to do that. You need to have a big name for you to override that UFC rule of there being a title fight, in the main event of a pay-per-view. How do I feel about it? I don't know, because that's a good question. Mm, Honestly, if it's these type of fights, I don't mind it. I feel like for a pay per view, the main event has to be a big fight. I think we can all agree. Like Diaz Masvidal was a big fight. Any fight that Connor's in, at least for now, is going to be a big fight. And I don't suspect his stock will ever plummet low enough to a point where we're not even considering him headlining slots, and you're thinking about putting him in co-main event. I think Connor's going to be a main event fighter for the rest of his career, however that long ends up being. But yeah, I think for special occasions like those, I think it's fine. But for the most part, maybe I'm a little conditioned to it, but I do like to see title fights headline pay-per-views. Again, I don't think that should be a hard rule. Like I said, I think with certain fights you can pull it off, but that guarantees us for the most part a good card, right? I mean, stakes, that's ultimately what we want to see, and that's ultimately what really separates pay-per-views from fight nights. Besides that, you got to pay, of course, but from just a viewing experience, usually in pay-per-views there's a lot at stake. Number one contender bouts, title fights, etc. So yeah, I'd like to see them try to keep that, but again, I don't think it should be a hard rule. That's how I feel about it. David Lackby says, "Hi Danny, what's next? Slash, what would it be good for Till? He made KG look average, Kelvin Gastelum, with a great game plan, meaning what the hell? With a great game plan, meaning I was back and fighting smarter. Jeez, I lost it. Is he ready for Whittaker, or is he? As both are rumored. I don't want to see Till. To be honest, like I like to err on the side of caution, and I have for a while. If you've been following me for a bit, you know that for the most part, especially when it comes to guys that are still developing, prospects, although you can consider them already a contender, but for guys that still have some development to do, I do think there is room for, again, not giving them BS fights that are going to be a wash, but fights that allow them to challenge themselves and at the same time grow. Um, so again, when you fight somebody like Israel Adesanya, I mean, he's the champion. You're fighting for the belt. So as soon as you get a hold of that belt, you're going to be fighting the toughest competition from then on. And again, there's only so many knockouts you can take. There's only so much damage you can take. So for someone like that, younger, that's just came into this new weight class, I'd like to see a slower pace. I did not like the Kelvin Gastelum fight, but that turned out to be all right for him. He did well, but Kelvin Gastelum also didn't look himself, to be honest. But again, not taking away anything from Till. He fought a very smart fight, as David here mentioned. But for example, I'd love to see Uriah Hall versus Darren Till. I think Uriah Hall recently came off a big win. Let me try to remember who exactly, but from what I remember, and then he called out Israel Adesanya. I don't know if you guys remember, but that would be a fun fight. Yeah, he beat Shoeface via split decision. That was a fun fight. He's on a 2-fight win streak. Again, a guy that has a very exciting striking style, a guy who's looking for big fights as well. Darren Till's a big name. I wouldn't mind that at all. Uriah Hall versus Darren Till. I'm all for it. Let me also pull up the UFC rankings right here. That's a good way of he should definitely get somebody ranked like a top 10, top 15 guy. But Uriah Hall is a good name. Let's see. Not Yo Romero. Sorry. Well, I was about to sneeze, but I think it went away. Never mind. Hopefully, I'm not getting sick. Yeah, Uriah Hall is a good option. Derek Brunson's a good option as well. Edmund Shabazian, Darren Till. That's a good fight. I'd watch that. But I think my top pick would be Uriah Hall, followed by Edmund Shabazian. Those are guys that are just, Uriah is number 11. Edmund is number 9. So I think that's about the range that Darren Till should be competing next. And he's ranked 5. That's again. And then if you look at the top 5, I do not want him to fight Jared Cannonier. I do not want him to fight Yo Romero. Paul Costa's injured. That Robert Whittaker fight seems like it's building some steam. He's the number 1 contender still somehow. I think that's BS, but he's the number 1 contender. Obviously, recently lost the belt to Israel Adesanya. He seems to be interested in the matchup. He said it to already a few media outlets that he's down to fight Darren Till, and Darren Till has also showed interest, and they've been calling each other out on social media. Stylistically, I like that fight as well, but again, I would like that fight maybe down the road, like a fight or two. That'd be fun. But if they were to do it, F it, whatever. I mean, you already have a win over Kelvin Gastelum, so whatever. I'm down to watch that fight. But in my opinion, I'd like to see him face other people, not Robert Whittaker. But again, I wouldn't hate it if he does fight Robert Whittaker because stylistically, that's it. I think that's a good fight for both. So, he's not like Yo Romero. I think that'd be Yo Romero is basically like a bad matchup for almost anyone. But yeah. All right. Where'd the chat go? There we go. Yeah. No, you know what? The Robert Whittaker's all right. Yeah, I wouldn't hate that matchup. For Till. All right. Joseph Sean asks, hi, do you think Wonderboy versus Israel is feasible? I don't think weight difference is that high. Yeah, Wonderboy's a big dude. No one has seen him in person here. He's tall. He's a big dude. You can tell he could definitely add more muscle to his frame and still be natural. 185 is not crazy, but again, he's never really had huge issues making 170. So also Israel Adesanya is big. I've also seen him in person. There would be a big size difference there. But think about this: Robert Whittaker was people don't remember this, but he was a welterweight at some point. Moved up to 185, and he's always been kind of like a smaller 185er. But that's kind of always played to his advantage because he's usually the quicker guy. Great gas tank, and that could be good as well for Wonderboy. But I don't think Wonderboy is going to go up to 185 anytime soon. I don't think he will because again, he's already old. He's 37 or something like that. He can make the weight fairly easily at this point in his career. It's not like he's 23 and starting to, then you can go, okay, you're definitely getting bigger. You're still not done growing. Wait till you're 26, 25. 28, then you will encounter some difficulty making the weight. So, he's definitely past that. So he's ranked at welterweight. There's no reason for him leaving. Like perfect example. I was talking to Michael Chiesa, and he said a lot of the same things some other fighters have said. He said, the problem for me is like, I wouldn't go up to 170 because I had a number at lightweight. So it's like, why would I go and start over when I could potentially, I have a number, like I can use that. That's leverage. I can use that for a lot of things, getting a certain type of opponent, right? If you're coming up to the end of your contract and if you're ranked, that gives you something to hold on to, right? So yeah, he didn't go up in weight because he was ranked. And then as soon as he had a few losses, that's when he was like, F it. But same with James Vick. James Vick recently went up to 170, got knocked out by Nico Price. Not recently, like over the summer. And, over the fall, like a few months ago in Tampa. Yeah, I was there. And one of the reasons, he said the same thing as Chiesa. He was like, the only reason why I went up to 170, I wasn't having a hard time cutting to 55, but like I didn't have a ranking anymore. So I didn't have anything holding me down. So why not try 170? Why not give it a shot? So yeah, no, I don't see Wonderboy going up to 185 and fighting Israel. I don't think that will happen. Um, Joseph asks, can Aldo make weight? And if so, can he become champion again? I do not like Aldo at 135. Not at all. One of the big things that made him such a great fighter at 145 was his speed, his reflexes, his timing. Obviously, he has great technique as far as striking, takedown defense, you name it. But a big part of it was his speed. At 135, fighters are going to be quick. And again, he's going to be having a harder cut. That's just, again, that's not me making up stuff. It's just natural. You're losing more weight, 10 more pounds to be exact. So you will by default have a tougher cut. And that often, not always, but that often can impact your gas tank, can impact your speed, your energy, your strength. And again, I don't think it's a good move, but maybe Aldo thinks it is. Maybe some things have changed. Maybe naturally, as he's gotten older, he's lost some of that muscle mass, and maybe he can make 135 and be competitive. Or maybe he's that good that he can make 135 and maybe even become champion. But I don't see it. I think 145 was always his weight class. Again, crazier things have happened, but the good thing about Aldo is that because he has a big name and because when you switch weight classes, you kind of hit the reset button. Um, he could get a win or two, depending on how he gets it, and he be getting a title shot. So it's definitely an easier path for him at 135, a shorter path, I think. And yeah, and also he doesn't have losses to the champion, etc. So in that sense, yeah, it's an easier path for him to get to the title at 135. But I don't know if he can. I'm really curious to see how that weight cut and how his performance goes if he indeed makes the weight. So that's going to be a close storyline, I'm going to keep a close eye on for sure. Let's see. I feel Izzy versus Bones, perfect fight for UFC Africa in 2021. Yeah, that's maybe not. That's a big fight. It'll probably happen in Vegas or New York, to be honest. Also, I would assume Jones at that time would be the A side, so he would want it on his home turf in America. So, but that's a big fight. Yeah, that's the fight to make either late 2020, depending on how things play out throughout the year, or 2021. But that's definitely a fight to make if both guys continue to be dominant, of course. All right, we are 47 minutes in, so I'll answer questions for about 10 more minutes and then dip out. Let's see. Sasso Gorlik. Dano wants a performance institute in Mexico and Puerto Rico by 2021. How do you see the status of Latino fighters on the global scale? Yeah, that'll be huge. Having a performance institute in Mexico. Mexico is probably no. It's Mexico is the most developed country in Latin America as far as MMA goes. A lot of talent comes out of there. So yeah, it would be huge to have a performance institute, have fighters, have resources available to fighters, whether it's for nutrition, training itself, etc. Recovery. That would be huge, and again, that all improves the quality of training, which that reflects later on your skills. So, it's clearly a growing market. It's clearly a market that is already, because of boxing. There is interest in combat sports, although it's different. I was in Mexico for UFC Mexico City when Jeremy Stevens fought, where Yair Rodriguez fought Jeremy Stevens, and there was that nasty eye poke or whatever. And I have some friends in Mexico, so I got to go out a little bit and hang out. And I was talking to people, and I would ask them, so what do you think about MMA and this and that? And obviously they were like, no, boxing here's the biggest thing. Believe it or not, baseball is like kind of picking up. Football is huge. Like American football is big in Mexico. And they're like, yeah, MMA, yeah, it's like coming up. So obviously there's still a lot of development that needs to happen, but it's definitely getting there. Also, Cain Velasquez is huge there. Uh, yeah, again, they got boxing and pro wrestling. Those are all cousins of MMA. They're all right there. So a performance institute would be huge to develop talent there and draw audience to that talent as well. Puerto Rico is an interesting one because it's a small island, and obviously a lot of talent has come out of there as far as boxing goes. But as far as MMA, I'm trying to think of like Puerto Rican fighters. I mean, there's fighters with like Puerto Rican descent. I believe the Pettis brothers, right? They have Puerto Rican descent. Ricardo Lamas does as well, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if again there's not a big Mexico's huge, especially Mexico City. But Puerto Rico doesn't have a huge population, so I don't know if a performance institute there would make a huge impact. I don't know, but in Mexico, 100%. All right. Jackson Rounds also in 145. What do you think of the Emmett versus Arnold Allen matchup? Yeah, it's good. Emmett's a stud. Arnold Allen is also a stud. That's a good fight. I don't have much to say beyond that. Um, how's the new company treating you? When will we see you in action? Well, I've been, I did that Kiesa interview and I'm hoping to do more. Keep in mind that I have the studios available here of USA Today in New York City, and it's been great. Yeah, I love MMA Junkie. I've been working out there for 2 weeks, and yeah, amazing experience. I love it there. It's awesome. I just lost where I was at. Okay. Let's see. Being 100%. Wait. No, sorry, I skipped that. Christopher Graham asks. Um. Ooh. Yeah. So he's asking about Walt Harris in the UFC. Saying, is it not incredibly bad taste of the UFC to publicly dedicate the December 7th show to Stuart Scott? Again, I haven't looked into that. Well, when Walt Harris withdrew from the event because of his daughter was kidnapped and murdered. Yeah, that's a horrible story, man. It, I feel terrible for Walt Harris and his family and close friends. That's just rough. Um, and look, the UFC, I think I don't know who Stuart Scott is, to be honest. And I don't know if that's indeed true that they're dedicating the December 7th show to Stuart Scott. But I'll say this: I think the UFC has been very supportive of Walt Harris and his family. I mean, prior to finding out what happened here at the end with Walt Harris' stepdaughter, I mean, they were constantly, retweeting, posting, making videos of if anybody has any information, just creating awareness, which that's huge in this type of cases, right? Investigation cases. So they supported a lot. They also, Dana White posted a picture with the bracelet, with a bracelet with a hashtag that was going around to create awareness as well. And yeah, they've been super supportive. So if anything, I think the UFC has done the best job they can do in this type of situation. I mean, it's a horrible situation. I feel terrible for Walt Harris, and I hope he finds peace in all this, which is obviously extremely difficult to do. But that's the only thing one can hope for. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. But I felt like the UFC was very supportive in this whole process. Christopher Graham again. Is Roy versus MVP the fight to make in Bellator? Sure, I wouldn't hate it. I'd actually like it a lot. Yeah, I like that option. MVP needs to fight top level guys, and clearly Roy is a top level fighter. So yeah, again, and then as I said in my last live Q&A, I've also said this as well. I think the fight to make is MVP versus Paul Daly too. I really want to see that fight. There's a lot of bad blood. It's a big fight for the region, for the UK. And again, I really don't think it'll go like the first one. I really don't. I really don't. This is MVP versus Paul Daly 2 is Bellator's Ngannou versus Derek Lewis 2. That is literally the same situation, just different weight classes, different people, different promotions. But yeah, I'd love to see that fight. But again, if Roy were to fight him, I'd be super okay with that too. I'm okay with MVP getting high profile fights. Patrick G asks, off topic, but Danny, do you think Overeem can easily get a takedown and finish Jairzinho in round one? This is not off topic because it's MMA, and I do think that's very possible. The Reem is a very, very good fighter. Even this late into his career, he's still one of the very best. Jairzinho has been fairly untested. I recently spoke to him, by the way. Super cool dude, a huge video game guy, plays a lot of Call of Duty and FIFA. Plays the UFC games as well. Huge gamer. I was a little disappointed to hear that his console of choice is PlayStation, but I still respect the gamer. But anyways, there's a story up on that on MMA Fighting, MMAJunkie.com, Old Habits. And I spoke to him about his upcoming fight with Overeem, and not only that, but his quick rise. I mean, if you think about it, Jairzinho's in a very interesting spot. He joined the UFC in 2019, and he would have wins over all first round knockouts too. I believe one might have been a second. Let me pull up his record here, just so I'm not making stuff up. Jairzinho Rosenstruck, Biggie Boy from Suriname. So he joined the UFC in February 2019. He picked up a second round knockout over Junior Albini, then a knockout over Alan Crowder in June, first round, then fought Andrei Arlovsky, picked up another knockout in just 29 seconds. And now he's fighting again in what, next week? Next Saturday. He's fighting Overeem in the main event. So he could potentially finish off the same year he joined the promotion, finish off with 4 knockout wins, right? Assuming he gets a knockout over Overeem, or just 4 wins. And those being over former UFC champion Andrei Arlovsky and former Overeem is super decorated, but former Dream champion, right? Former Strikeforce champion Alistair Overeem. So that's huge, and he could very well be a win or two from fighting for the title. I mean, that win alone puts him in the top 10, maybe likely even top 5. So that's a big fight for him. And again, Alistair Overeem, that dude's got 7 lives, so I wouldn't be surprised if he beats Rosenstruck as well. Overeem is very crafty. He's a veteran, very skilled everywhere, very smart fighter. One of the smartest fighters to ever set foot in the octagon, in my opinion. That fight could go either way. I'm excited for it. We'll see what happens. But big fight for both gentlemen. And totally possible that Overeem can take down Rosenstruck and submit him, or finish him there. But it's also totally possible that Jairzinho just knocks him out in the first round. That dude's quick and he's got crazy power too. Jairzinho is one to keep an eye on for sure. So let's see. Good question, and not off topic. Man, bunch of questions. A lot of people are kind of asking. Let's see. Okay, this is one on topic for sure. What should Bellator do about the vacant bantamweight title? Gallagher versus Pettis, or 4-man tournament? Patrick Mick, Sergio Pettis, Gallagher, Leandro Higo, or something else? Yeah. So for those that missed the news earlier this week, Kyoji Horiguchi suffered a knee injury, and he basically was forced to. He vacated his Ryzen belt, and that was earlier in the month in November. And just earlier this week, late November, he also vacated the Bellator belt. He's supposed to be, according to officials, he's supposed to be out for 10 months. So that's a good chunk of time. That sounds about a time you would vacate your belt. So good for him to taking that step and allowing the division to move forward, because he could easily be like, no, I'm coming back soon, and hold on to it for a few more months and kind of put the division on hold. But he didn't. He knew he was out for a while, and he just gave up the belt. And Scott Coker also said that Kyoji will get an immediate title shot upon return, whenever that is. As far as what they should do next, Sergio Pettis, that's a low-key story that kind of flew under the radar, but now he's a Bellator fighter. I believe he signed with Bellator already. Gallagher has been killing it and has been has been making his name even stronger as of late with these main event bouts he's been getting overseas. So possibly. I don't know exactly, but I wouldn't hate a 4-man tournament. But at the same time, it's like, I kind of just, okay, if you're gonna do tournaments, do them well. Do these long tournaments that we're used to seeing, right? rather than just a quick 4-man. Yeah, just pick who the top contenders are out there, and if Pettis, I mean, yeah, Pettis Gallagher could be an option. There's other names there as well, but yeah, it's an interesting question. We'll see how that plays out. All right, Christopher again with another question. Would Whittaker versus Till and Edwards versus Woodley be too stacked for the London card? No, not at all. That'd be a fantastic card. There's no such thing as too stacked. The more, the merrier. Joseph Jacoby, I want to see Khabib versus Kevin Lee. Not yet, but maybe we'll see. Kevin Lee's definitely turning into something with his work at TriStar, so keeping a close eye on him. Christopher Graham again asks, who should Cannonier face next? That's a tough one. I think Adesanya should fight Yo Romero or a Cannonier. So that's that. And if Yo Romero were to get the shot, because it seems that's the more friendlier fight, like people are just more into that fight than the Cannonier matchup, then Cannonier should take on somebody else, anybody, just to keep him busy, and then he'll be the next contender. Islam Makhachev will be the next lightweight champion, Joseph Jacoby adds. That's what people say. That's what, people that are in the know, the people that are close to him. Apparently, that guy's a killer in training, and he's really like the next big thing. And he's young. I think he's only like 26, and so far he's been putting on an impressive body of work in the UFC. Maybe, possibly, yeah. And again, training with the actual champion itself, like himself, doesn't hurt either. Christopher Graham asks, do you have a Patreon, and will you be doing a podcast version of the Q&A? I do not have Patreon. Frankly, I don't know how that works. I've never checked it out, but I think this medium's fine. I believe with Patreon, you have to pay, right? I'm not looking to do that. I like talking freely on YouTube so everybody can access this. And yeah, and that's that. And hopefully this continues to grow and turn into something. But no, I haven't looked into Patreon. I don't think I'm considering it. Maybe down the line. I don't even know. Again, I don't really know what it entails all that much. But from what I understand, it's like a paid subscription type thing. If Cormier beats Stipe, what we do with the heavyweight division as the champion will retire? Then you pick the top contenders, which would be Francis Ngannou and maybe who else is on a nice win streak? Jairzinho Rosenstruck, if he beats Alistair Overeem. There's a few other names out there that could potentially you can plug in there. But that'll take a while. Maybe Cyril Gane puts on, something together. I mean, he's been killing it. He got like his last fight, he got like a crazy heel hook or something like that. But yeah, it will definitely be Francis Ngannou if he still hasn't lost a fight against whoever the top contender is at the time. So yeah. All right. So I'm past an hour. I'll answer one more question and I'll get out of here. Ryan B. I believe I haven't answered any Ryan B questions, so I'll take up that one will be the last. Danny, will UFC 246 be headlined by Conor or any other title fight? Well, yes, it will be headlined by Conor, and I don't think they'll put on a title fight. I think that'll be a non-title pay-per-view. But let me pull this up because I believe there are already some fights for it, right? I believe Alexa Grasso's fighting on that, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Maybe. So far, this is what the UFC 246 card looks like. McGregor versus Donald Cerrone. That's going to be your main event. Then you got a featherweight bout between Andre Fili and Sadiq Youssef. Ooh, that's a good one. Mataferi versus Macy Barber. That's a good one as well. Nasrat Hakpasar. Sorry if I'm killing his name, but yeah, he's skilled. Fighting Drew Dober. That's a good matchup as well. Grant Dawson versus Chas Kelly. I like Chas Kelly. That's going to be a good fight. Olinik versus Maurice Green. That's going to be a good fight. Anthony Pettis versus Carlos Diego Ferreira. That's a good fight. Pettis returned to lightweight. And then Tim Elliott versus Askar Askarov, who fought Brandon Moreno in Mexico and fought to a draw. So that should be a good fight as well. I don't expect any titles to be added to this card. I think you can literally just fill the rest of the card with regional fighters, and it's going to do well just because Conor's on the front of this. And I think the UFC knows that. I mean, I'm not saying the UFC is going to put on bad matchups, but I don't suspect they will use these huge fights that they can possibly use just a month later when, you already have Conor in the main event doing selling most of the pay-per-view. I don't think he needs any help in that regard. So no, I don't expect any huge fights announced for that card. Will there be some good fights? Yeah, there'll be some good fights added, but I think it'd be more catered towards the hardcores like ourselves. I don't think we'll get like a big fight in the sense of like a big fight in the sense of a promotional big fight. So yeah, that does it. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're about an hour and 5 minutes in. I appreciate everybody that submitted questions via Twitter. Thank you for that. So I can, get some stuff queued up and answer your questions, as soon as the live chat begins. Because again, we only got an hour. So thank you guys for tuning into this third edition of the live Q&A. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, tell your friends about it, and turn on notifications so you get future notifications whenever I go live. So again, I appreciate your support so much. Thank you so much for this. This is always fun. And I'll see you next week, next Sunday at 1 p.m. Enjoy UFC DC. That's going to be a good card. And that's all I got. Later, guys. And we out.